BUBBLE FLIX presents Amsterdam, 1637. Tulips, fortunes, promises, and one of the most famous speculative manias in financial history. Some rare tulip contracts were quoted at extraordinary prices, sums comparable to years of skilled income. The object was tiny. The expectations surrounding it were enormous. The Netherlands was already one of Europe's richest and most sophisticated commercial societies. Global trade created fortunes, a prosperous merchant class, and money looking for desirable things to buy. Tulips had arrived in Western Europe from the Ottoman world. By the 1590s, botanists such as Carolus Clusius were cultivating them in Leiden. They were exotic, difficult, and fashionable. The most prized tulips displayed spectacular flames and streaks. Growers did not know it, but a virus caused these patterns, making the most beautiful flowers difficult to reproduce and genuinely scarce. A rare tulip was more than a flower. It became a collectible, a display of taste and status. Scarcity created desire. Desire created prestige, and prestige created a price. Tulip bulbs could only be lifted and delivered during part of the year. So traders increasingly exchanged agreements for future delivery. The flower stayed underground. The promise began to move. Trading spread through informal gatherings in inns and taverns. Growers, merchants, and craftsmen negotiated contracts. A buyer no longer needed to admire the flower. He needed another buyer. By late 1636, prices for fashionable varieties were climbing rapidly. Rising prices attracted attention. Attention attracted new buyers. And every successful resale appeared to prove that the optimism was justified. The strange transformation was complete. What had begun as enthusiasm for a beautiful flower was becoming a market in expectations. Claims on bulbs that many traders might never personally see. This is the engine of a bubble. Scarcity raises prices. Rising prices create stories of profit. Those stories attract buyers. More buyers push prices higher, and the price becomes its own advertisement. And this was not pure stupidity. Tulips really were scarce. Wealth really was growing. Successful traders really had made money. For a while, the evidence seemed to reward the optimists. Semper Augustus became the symbol of the mania, quoted at astonishing prices. But history requires caution. Some legendary figures were quotations or offers, not necessarily completed transactions. The warning signs were already there. Prices were moving faster than the underlying object. Resale mattered more than ownership. And confidence increasingly depended on prices continuing to rise. Then, in early February 1637, something terrifying happened. At auctions, buyers stopped bidding. Nothing fundamental about tulips had changed. What changed was confidence. Once buyers disappeared, the logic reversed. A contract valuable because someone else wanted it became frightening when nobody did. Prices fell. Agreements became disputed. The mania had broken. The story itself then acquired a second life. Satirical accounts magnified the madness. In 1841, Charles Mackay's famous book helped transform Tulip Mania into the universal parable we remember today. The important lesson survives the mythology. A bubble does not require a worthless asset. Tulips were beautiful and genuinely scarce. The mistake was turning a limited truth into unlimited expectations. Scarcity is not value. Rising prices can manufacture their own story, and every seller ultimately needs another buyer. Different century, different asset, same behavior. That's BUBBLE FLIX.